question. Social media. I saw that recently you had a video where you kind of addressed some controversy from a previous video, a podcast that you did, regarding kind of the coddling nature of some parents in the States now, bullying versus social media. Can you kind of explain what that whole situation was?
Yeah, so I made a couple of videos. I guess you could say they're podcast style. One was an interview with a famous social psychologist, written 3 great books. His name is Jonathan Haidt. Big fan of his. He studies essentially happiness, morality, really interesting subjects that I've always been curious about. So in reading his books, I found a lot of his views made sense to me. And I guess we can say that's a form of confirmation bias. I was seeking this information to validate my thoughts. But he also introduced things in a way that I never thought about them, like giving me facts about them. And I made this video where essentially we talk about how our overprotective, overbearing nature of the current space of parents has actually hurt our children, because we see these anxiety and depression rates skyrocketing in our youth. And initially some people are like, no, we're just better at catching it. Well, if that was the case, why are the rates of self-harm going up? That's not something we're just catching. That's just hospital admission rates. So we think this is a true phenomenon. It does happen. And the big reason we together kind of believe it is, A, parents are doing kind of a disservice to their children by being overprotective, and B, social media is amplifying that. So we talked about this, and one of the snippets in the conversation, I said, he mentioned, like, if you could have your child live in a bubble, will they never get any kind of bullying or no one will ever call them a name? Would you create a life for them like that? And I said, no. And people got really like, so what? You want your child to be abused? And that's when a very important distinction must be made. I support, and I think acute stress is really good for our mental health. Just how acute stress is really good for our bones, because if you don't have any stresses on your bones like gravity, like if you go to outer space, your bones get fragile. Okay. Allergies, your immune system needs to be boosted. By the way, these are all things that Jonathan Haidt says really well. I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but allergies, your body needs challenges. When it doesn't, and you constantly are very sanitary and clean, your body starts attacking itself. That's what an allergy is. So our body likes challenges, and the same goes for our minds. And I used a couple of examples that my father, when I came home and said, someone called me a name or a teacher was unfair, he's like, figure it out. He would step in if it became a chronic problem, but that acute stress he knew was important for my development. Because in life, we will always find these acute stresses everywhere. Someone will always be mean to us. Someone will always cross us. We can't eliminate all bad in the world. So we need to learn how to handle that. And if we always are living in this closed off bubble where no one says anything bad, we're setting up a child for failure. So of course, if a child's getting bullied, and now with social media, that bullying comes home with them, that's where you step in. Of course you step in. But just on a one time, like, this is a great example. I play soccer. I was playing indoor soccer the other day. Before I got to the courts, there was kids playing, 9, 10 years old. One of the kids gets hit in the face with a soccer ball, very gentle, and it was a soft soccer ball. Father runs in, oh my God, are you okay? Please come sit. The child's in tears. The dad's like, oh my God, we're gonna make it okay. And then the child runs off and keeps playing like nothing happened, which is what children do because it wasn't a serious injury. And the father's like, it's okay. If that's what you feel like doing, go play, continue play. And it's the more we do that for minor issues, we then, when they experience them out in the outside world, they don't have that support from their parents. They don't know how to deal with it.
Sure. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, yeah. So it sounds like you're always going to get pushed. You need to learn how to push back. Well, right. That might sound way more violent than what you're talking about.
It's funny. Jonathan Haidt said something kind of borderline messed up if you take it out of context.
Let's do that. We're going to clip it.
Yeah. He said, we need to be okay with social injustices. We need to learn how to be okay with. And it's not saying that we should not do anything about social injustices. It just means that if we are not ready for them and they destroy our ability to function, we can never make changes to the social injustices. So first we need to be okay with them so they don't destroy our pathway. And then we need to figure out how to be constructive and productive and address them.
Interesting. So if you had a kid right now, when would you allow them on social media?
Mid to late high school.
Wait, okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, very late.
You think you're going to be able to keep that technology out of their hands?
100%.
You are. Yeah. You are a confident man.
Because I knew what I did to sneak around. So I know what the kids are going to do.
I was like, wait, what would you do to sneak around?
Well, whatever. Like, I mean, you hide. When LimeWire came out, I was hiding LimeWire from my parents.
Well, I like the time where parents were technologically ignorant, where I could turn off the monitor and they were like, okay, well, the computer's off. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to sneak in 30 minutes later. You don't even know. I'm going to steal some stuff that I think is music and is actually weird porn.
See?
Yeah.
Now you know.
Yeah, we've recently made the decision to pull back like even the iPad. It was like, okay, let's do YouTube Kids. Actually, let's curate it. Actually, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't know. And I think what made me stop was I thought back to my childhood, and the TV for me was 100% the babysitter. And even having kind of an inkling of that, I felt a little bad.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like, no, I much rather would be outside. Something we've started doing with our son, because I talked to you a little about it, is like even just in the mornings, he and my wife now go for runs, right? Get energy out, do something productive, hopefully develop a habit, just having those opportunities.
So what's interesting about kids is we try and do all these things that we think are going to help them or make life easier. The best thing you can do for your kid is lead by example. That's how kids learn. They're sponges. If you say you should exercise, but you don't, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
They're just not going to do it.
You're making me feel like a hero. I was like, this morning I worked out with Trey. It was great. It was good.
That's commendable, because that's what's really going to make a lasting change. So you could say all you want, like don't use the iPad. You could even take it away. But if you're always on it, that's what they're going to learn is okay. So it's really important to lead by example and make the changes in yourself first and be in a healthy and happy place before you start telling your kids what to do.
I was like, somehow the conversation of bullying led me down okay, I won't play video games until my son's asleep. I'm trying to hide it.
Well, see, that's okay, because I feel like parents are very into being friends with their children. And while that's good on some levels, it could also cause some issues, because there needs to be a disciplinarian in the house, someone who sets boundaries and rules. And you can't always do that if you're just a friend. It's going to make you even feel bad being a disciplinarian if you're their friend. So if you're going to do something like parents come into my office with children and then they start divulging things about their ex-husbands, ex-wives, or the struggles that they're going through. I'm like, get your 10-year-old out of the room before you tell me these things.
Sure. Because
they're not ready for it. That's why, again, we hold off vaping, we hold off cigarettes, because they can't handle that. They're not developed enough for it. So what I do to parents is I try and say, if you're going to have deep conversations, learn what's appropriate for your child with their age. And that line is different for everybody. Like one child can take more bullying than another. One child can have more intellectual conversations than another. But if we just throw it all at kids, bad outcome.
And so I guess your main thing is, if there is a bad situation, a bullying, the main thing would be interject when it becomes not an outlier.
When it becomes
chronic.
When it becomes like a long-term thing where like constantly your child's coming home and you're seeing that it's affecting them. But you have to almost at the same time act in that you're not helping them.
There's certain points I will say, because I didn't have brothers or sisters growing up. I didn't really get to hang out with a bunch of kids. So experiencing things with my sons right now, it's a whole new world. And so there was a I never know what to believe. So it's like one of those things. My son did a summer camp, and one day we pick him up. He punched a kid in the face.
Okay.
And I was just like, oh. And they described this different situation. He says that he was getting picked on. He tried to go to the teacher, but they weren't there. And so, he ended up punching this kid in the face. That's a situation where I'm like, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know. Obviously, it's always go find a teacher, but how do we raise children? Well, did you have brothers and sisters growing up?
Yeah, I have an older sister.
How do you raise, in your opinion, a child to not be a doormat, but not be the aggressor?
But stand up to themselves. Yeah. I mean, the fair thing to do is to say, you're in trouble, but I'm going to figure this out.
Sure.
And with the best, again, you're going to have
and
limited
never
evidence.
Address it.
No, I mean, whatever limited evidence you can.
Yeah.
Let's say you never get enough evidence to know it's true.
Sure.
You tell them, I'm trusting you, but if this happens again, you're in trouble.
Sure. If it's chronic behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So like cut them a break, but also like there's always a line. And again, for every child, it's so different because you already have your own intuition about how your child normally behaves. So if he never lashes out and all of a sudden some teacher's saying out of nowhere he started doing, there must have been some extenuating circumstance. Sure. Then you can be more, easy on. So again, it's like there's all this nuance out in the world that everyone chooses to ignore in context. So I'm always like nuance.
Yeah. I get that.